All right, now this next topic is again one that I'm very excited to talk about. And again, spoiler alert, I can do this again because again, it's a video that might be coming out before this one. I'm going to be redoing a series about this. And it comes down to the boxing versus MMA debate that rages on Twitter on a daily basis. So the question being, has MMA finally taken over as the global leader of combat sports at the expense of boxing, which has obviously been number one for decades? The floor is yours.
This one is so difficult. I am going to say yes, but there's something that recently happened makes me waver on that. I say yes in part because I believe that as a whole, when it comes across like the amount of fighters, the amount of relevant events, the amount of people that have been pushed into the limelight, MMA exceeds boxing right now. But when it comes to individual fighters getting the most, we just saw that Francis Ngannou is going to fight Anthony Joshua, and he's going to make $20 million. He made $10 million.
How do you feel about that fight, by the way?
I think that Francis has a great opportunity to beat Anthony Joshua. A great opportunity. It depends on who Anthony Joshua is when he comes in. He's going to have to want to get into the face of danger. If he plays it safe, and if he comes in as Anthony Joshua, I think that he loses. If he comes in as AJ, I think he wins. It's two different fighters. If he comes in not necessarily reckless, but as a calculated assassin, I think that he could win. But if he comes in trying to point fight, Francis is going to destroy that man.
Yeah, I agree.
But because of that's what makes me feel like it's still an interesting debate, because of the top level of boxing far outsees the top level of MMA from an earnings perspective. But as a whole, if we're looking at the there's world champion boxers that we have never heard of, but there's even Alexander Pantoja, which I would say is probably the least known champion that we have. People know who he is, so he's not driving Uber anymore. I'll say that much. So I think that they have overtaken boxing, but at the top level, it's still a boxing world.
Yeah. You're going to be surprised by this answer, and I don't really like admitting this outright. You know, I've probably had more arguments calling boxing fans simpletons that hate MMA on Twitter more than anything else I've done on that platform. Like, I've had so many arguments with boxing fans that just, have such a derogatory view of MMA. But I would probably argue that globally, boxing is still the bigger sport technically, but there are a few caveats to that. As there always are with me. They should probably call me Captain Caveat at this point. I've always got like a little rule to just undermine my own point. I would argue actually that MMA has the bigger hardcore fan base and a regular watching fan base, if that makes sense. I think it's because of the regularity of the cards, the way that they interact with the product, etc. I think boxing fans that are hardcores for me are more smaller in number at this point, and that the majority of cards are not as big in terms of exposure and interactions with the public and on social media. I do think that when the biggest names are more involved though, when you get your AJs, you get your Canelos, people like that, that's when you get more casual fans drawn in. And I think part of the reason behind that is that a lot of people who don't watch MMA on a regular basis still kind of see it as a very barbaric kind of sport. or it's kind of seen as, oh, they've gone too far, they can do whatever they want. They imagine a limb being broken in half or blood splattering everywhere, whereas boxing is kind of seen more as sophisticated and gentlemanly and more digestible to the general public.
True.
So I think that has a lot to do with it. But I think as time goes on, because I'll be honest with you, before I first got into MMA, I was a pure boxing fan, and I didn't really watch MMA. And I had that very view that I'm talking about. I thought, nah, I don't want to say that I'm a bit of a bitch. I mean, I'll let the general public come to their own conclusions on that one. I've probably left a few breadcrumbs that I shouldn't have regarding that. But I think what will happen is the more and more that MMA is consumed as a sport, and that, that opinion of it as very brutal and base in a way, is going to dissipate the more and more it happens, because I simply think that MMA is a more exciting thing to watch. The cards are better, the promotion of the sport is better, the way that weight classes are very streamlined is much better. Like in boxing, there are so many champions, so many weight classes, so many organizations, so many things going on, that it just gets completely diluted to the point where I don't even know who the best in the world is at certain points, which you could say is a very similar problem that happens in MMA with a few major organizations around the world. But I do think it's a matter of time before it becomes undeniable that MMA is the global leader. It will be so obvious to the point where you can't even argue it. But I would say right now, as of now, because of that ability to pull in those casual fan bases whenever you put a big event on, I would say probably not now. We've got a bigger hardcore fan base, but as far as the smaller casual armchair observers go that might watch 2 or 3 cards a year, I think boxing still has that wider appeal.
It's easier to understand. It's definitely easier to understand. You got to do the grandma test, and if you go to a grandma, like, what is she going to understand more? And it's going to be boxing. When the fight hits the floor, that's when everybody who is not used to it is going to be like, I do not know what's happening. Yeah. Why are they humping each other? And
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so,
yes.
The only people that hump people on the floor like that is, Izzy that one time, and maybe John Fitch. So, like, we don't see that. You don't understand what you're seeing. And I think the UFC with their commentators do a great job of educating the viewer on what they're seeing. I say all the time that I'm a BJJ black belt in the Joe Rogan Academy of BJJ. So that's why I understand what's going on, because of what he said and what other people have said. So that this is a sport that you learn by watching. From boxing, did he hit him or did he not? So,
and that really is what it comes down to. He punched his face, he didn't punch his face back. Here's the winner.
Yeah,
doesn't always go that way, but
no, it doesn't.
It is nice to have that simplicity about it, though, as well.
That's true, and I think that I can understand, your point in that for sure. I think that where MMA is making a lot of ground is because of all the different disciplines that are prevalent in different areas, like wrestling in Russia, kickboxing in some of the European areas. In Thailand, you got Muay Thai. All those things are prevalent in MMA, so it makes it easy for them to digest what they're seeing. Even if the fight goes to a different area, they understand, okay, I know the guy that I'm supporting. When he gets to the Muay Thai range, when I see Rafael Fiziev in certain areas, I know what he's going to do, and I understand that. So that's where MMA is going to, if they haven't already moved past boxing, because of that level of understanding from the different areas of the world.
Yeah. No, yeah, again, I completely agree. It's like the access points as well, isn't it? You've just got, even if you're, as you said, if you're somebody who is a Muay Thai person, it sometimes can just simply be interesting to see, all right, will my style work against somebody who's going to grab my leg and start trying to go for my bum hole? Will it work?
Yeah.
In a real situation? And then you very much find out that, okay, maybe I need to add a few wrinkles to my skill set to protect my virginity, you know. So it's
that's important. You want to protect that.
You really want to keep hold of that one.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that now. That'd be good. I mean, no offense to anybody who
enjoys those sorts of activities. If that's what you like, that's what you like.
Hats off to you. 100%. Yeah,
you're better man than me. I don't know.
we didn't see this coming, did we? We never do. Just the segues we somehow end up getting to is wild. Add that off the list.